I was standing on the corner of 5th and Madison in downtown Chicago. My hands were shaking. My cardboard sign was wet from the morning drizzle, the ink running down like tears. It read, "My daughter needs a heart. I only have $12. Please help." People walked past me like I was invisible. Some glanced at the sign, then looked away quickly. Others pretended I didn't exist at all. I understood. I used to be one of them. 2 years ago, I was Marcus Thompson, project manager at a logistics company. I wore pressed suits. I drove a Honda Accord. I had a 401k and a dental plan. Now I was just another desperate man on a street corner, begging. My daughter Lily was 7 years old. She had her mother's eyes, big and brown, full of wonder. She used to dance in the living room to Disney songs. She used to chase butterflies in the backyard. Now she was lying in a hospital bed at Northwestern Memorial, connected to machines that beeped and hissed and kept her heart beating. Barely. Her condition was called dilated cardiomyopathy. I learned that word the day my whole world collapsed. The doctors explained it simply. Her heart was too weak. It couldn't pump blood the way it needed to. She needed a transplant. Without it, she had months, maybe weeks. The insurance covered part of it. But the rest, the surgeries, the medications, the aftercare, it added up to numbers I couldn't comprehend. Numbers that made my chest tighten every time I saw them on paper, so I sold everything. The car, the furniture, my late wife's wedding ring, the one I swore I'd never part with. Sarah had died in a car accident when Lily was 3. That ring was the last piece of her I had left, but I sold it anyway because Lily was still here and she needed to stay. Still, it wasn't enough. I took out loans. I borrowed from friends. I worked overtime until my company downsized and let me go. After that, there was nothing left. No job, no savings, no options. That's how I ended up on this corner. I'd been here for 6 days. The first day I collected $17. The second day, 9. By the 5th day, people stopped looking at me entirely. Today, a woman in a red coat dropped 2 quarters into my cup without making eye contact. Another man handed me a granola bar. I thanked him like he'd given me gold, because in that moment it felt like he had. By noon, my body ached from standing. My stomach growled, but I didn't eat the granola bar. I saved it for Lily. She barely had an appetite anymore, but sometimes she'd take a small bite just to make me smile. I checked my phone, 1% battery. The hospital had called twice that morning, but I'd missed both. I was terrified to call back. Every call felt like it could be the last. The one that said she was gone. The rain started to pick up. I tucked the sign under my jacket to keep it dry. A man in a gray overcoat walked toward me. He looked different from the others. He wasn't rushing. He wasn't avoiding my eyes. He stopped, right in front of me. "How old is she?" he asked. His voice was calm, steady. I blinked. 7, I said. He nodded slowly. Then he pulled out his phone and made a single call. I didn't know it yet, but that call was about to change everything. The man didn't say a word while he spoke into his phone. He just nodded a few times, then ended the call. He looked at me again. "Come with me," he said. I hesitated. I didn't know this man. I didn't know if I could trust him, but something in his eyes, a kind of quiet certainty, made me follow. We walked 3 blocks in silence. The rain had slowed to a mist. He led me to a black SUV parked along the curb. A driver stepped out and opened the back door. "Get in," the man said. I climbed inside. The leather seats were warm. The car smelled like coffee and cedar. I hadn't been inside a vehicle this clean in over a year. The man sat beside me. "My name is David Reynolds," he said. "I'm a cardiac surgeon at Northwestern." My heart stopped. "You work at the hospital?" He nodded. "I've seen your daughter's file." I didn't know what to say. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. "I wasn't supposed to be on that street today," David continued. "I was running late to a meeting. I took a wrong turn." He paused, and then I saw you. I felt tears burn behind my eyes. "I don't have the money," I whispered. "I've tried everything. I've sold everything. I only have $12. David didn't flinch. "I'm not asking for money," he said. "I'm offering help." He explained it slowly. There was a foundation, a private one, funded by donors who believed in second chances. They covered transplant costs for patients who had no other options. David sat on the board. He had the authority to make recommendations. "I called them just now," he said. "They've agreed to review your daughter's case." I couldn't breathe. "Why?" I asked. "Why would you do this?" David looked out the window. For a moment, he was somewhere else. "Because 20 years ago," he said quietly, "I was where you are." He told me his story. When he was 24, fresh out of medical school, his younger brother was diagnosed with leukemia. They had no insurance. Their parents were gone. David worked double shifts at a diner while studying for his residency exams. He sold plasma twice a week. He begged strangers for help. One day, a woman he'd never met walked into the diner. She'd heard about his brother through a friend of a friend. She paid for the entire treatment. She never asked for anything in return. She told me to pass it on, David said. I've been waiting for the right moment. He looked at me. I think this is it. We arrived at the hospital. The building looked different now. Before, it had felt like a prison. Now it felt like hope. David walked me through the side entrance. He greeted the nurses by name. They smiled at him like he was family. We stopped outside Lily's room. Through the window, I could see her. She was asleep. Her chest rose and fell with each shallow breath. The machines hummed beside her. I pressed my hand against the glass. I'm going to save her, David said, but I need you to trust me. I turned to face him. I trust you, I said, and for the first time in months, I meant it. The next 48 hours were a blur. David moved fast. He contacted the foundation, expedited Lily's paperwork, and scheduled a full evaluation. I sat in the waiting room while specialists came and went. Every hour felt like a lifetime. At one point, a nurse brought me a cup of coffee. She didn't say anything, just squeezed my shoulder and walked away. It was the kindest gesture I'd received in weeks. Lily woke up that evening. Her eyes were glassy, but she smiled when she saw me. Daddy, she whispered. I had a dream about butterflies. I sat on the edge of her bed and held her hand. Tell me about it, I said. She described a meadow full of flowers. The butterflies were golden. They lifted her up and carried her through the sky. I wasn't scared, she said. I felt happy. I kissed her forehead. You're going to see real butterflies soon, I told her. I promise. She fell asleep again. I stayed beside her all night. The next morning, David came with news. A donor heart had been found. It was a match. I dropped to my knees, right there in the hallway. I didn't care who saw. I cried like I hadn't cried since Sarah died. David helped me to my feet. The surgery is tomorrow, he said. I'll be leading the team. I grabbed his hand. Thank you, I said. Thank you for seeing me. He nodded. You were never invisible, Marcus. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the chapel on the 3rd floor. I hadn't prayed in years. After Sarah died, I was angry at God. I blamed him for taking her, for leaving me alone with a child I didn't know how to raise. But sitting there in the quiet glow of candlelight, I felt something shift. Maybe it was forgiveness. Maybe it was surrender. I clasped my hands together. Please, I whispered, let her live. The surgery began at 7 a.m. I paced the waiting room for 6 hours. Every time a door opened, my heart stopped. A woman sat down beside me. She was older, maybe 60, with silver hair and kind eyes. Is it your child? She asked. I nodded. Mine too, she said. 20 years ago, same hospital. She told me her son had needed a liver transplant. The same foundation that was helping me had helped her. They saved my boy, she said. He's a teacher now, 3rd grade. She placed her hand over mine. Have faith. At 1:15 p.m., the doors opened. David walked out. He was still in his scrubs. His face was calm. She made it, he said. I collapsed into the chair. The woman beside me smiled. I told you, she said. The days that followed were fragile. Lily was in the ICU. She was stable, but recovery would take time. I sat beside her bed every day. I read her stories. I played her favorite songs on my phone. I told her about the butterflies waiting outside. She smiled sometimes. Other times, she just held my hand. That was enough. David visited every morning. He checked her vitals, adjusted her medications, and answered every question I had. He never rushed. He never made me feel small. One afternoon, I asked him about his brother. Did he make it? David paused. He did, he said. He's a civil rights attorney in Detroit now, got 3 kids. He smiled. We talk every Sunday. I thought about Sarah. I wondered what she'd say if she could see me now. I hoped she'd be proud. I hoped she'd forgive me for selling the ring. A week later, Lily was moved out of the ICU. She was awake more often. She started eating solid food again. One morning, she asked me for pancakes. With chocolate chips, I said. She grinned. And whipped cream. I laughed for the first time in months. It felt strange, like wearing clothes that no longer fit, but it also felt right. David arranged for Lily to stay in a private recovery suite. The foundation covered everything. They even provided housing assistance so I could stay nearby. I didn't have to return to that street corner. I didn't have to hold that sign. I didn't have to beg, but I never forgot what it felt like to be invisible, to be desperate, to have nothing left but hope. A month later, Lily was discharged. She walked out of the hospital on her own 2 feet. She was weak, but she was alive. We stood on the sidewalk outside. The sun was warm on our faces. A butterfly drifted past. Lily gasped. Daddy, look. She chased it for a few steps before I caught her arm. Easy, baby, I said. Your heart's still healing. She looked up at me. But it's a new heart, she said. That means I get to start over. I knelt beside her. We both do. David met us at the curb. He handed me a card. This is my personal number, he said. If you ever need anything. I took it. You saved her, I said. He shook his head. You saved her. I just showed up. We shook hands. Then he hugged me. It was quick. But it meant everything. We moved to a small apartment in Evanston. The foundation helped me find a job as an administrative assistant at a nonprofit. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work, and it paid the bills. Lily started second grade in the fall. She made friends quickly. She loved art class and recess and the grilled cheese sandwiches in the cafeteria. She still tired easily, but every day she got a little stronger. One Saturday, we went to the Lincoln Park Zoo. It was her first outing since the transplant. She held my hand the whole time. We watched the flamingos. We ate popcorn by the pond. We laughed at the penguins. At one point, she stopped in front of the butterfly exhibit. Her eyes went wide. "Can we go in?" she asked. I hesitated. "Are you sure you're up for it?" She nodded. We stepped inside. The air was warm and humid. Butterflies floated around us like living confetti. Lily stood in the center of the room. She spread her arms wide. A blue butterfly landed on her shoulder. She didn't move, she just smiled. I took a picture with my phone. It's still my lock screen. That night after she fell asleep, I sat on the edge of her bed. I watched her breathe, steady, strong, alive. I thought about everything we'd been through. The fear, the loss, the desperation, the kindness. I thought about David, about the woman in the chapel, about the strangers who dropped quarters into my cup. Each one of them had played a role. Each one had reminded me that I wasn't alone. I made a decision that night. I would pay it forward, just like David had. I reached out to the foundation and offered to volunteer. They invited me to speak at fundraising events, to share Lily's story, to show others that miracles were possible. The first time I stood on that stage, my legs trembled. But then I looked into the crowd, and I saw other fathers, other mothers, other desperate souls holding onto hope. I told them the truth, that I had stood on a street corner with $12 and a cardboard sign, that a stranger had stopped and made one call. That call had saved my daughter's life, and now I was here standing, breathing, grateful. Lily came to one of my events. She sat in the front row. When I finished speaking, she ran to the stage and hugged me. "Daddy," she whispered, "you're a hero." I shook my head. "No, baby, the hero was the man who stopped." She looked up at me with those big brown eyes. "Then we'll stop for someone too." I smiled. "Yes, we will. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and visit the channel for more real-life stories.